for Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. Is there a motion to open tonight's meeting? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Galen, all in favor. Meeting is hereby open. Trustee Sullivan is excused, so it'll be just be the six of us tonight. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No. I was just like, I thought it was a bug.
Since we last met, we lost someone who was very important to the history and the fabric of Dobbs Ferry. She was the first and only, I believe, female mayor of Dobbs Ferry, Zella Knight. And we have two people here who I know who want to speak about her. I'm going to hold tonight's meeting in memory of her. And I think, Don Mara, you want to come up, former Mayor Mara? Herb, you want to go first? Come on up. Yes.
Gisela Knight died 2 weeks ago today at age 96. As the mayor said, she was quite an important person in Dobbs Ferry from the 1960s through about 1989. And so I suspect that many people in this room and a lot of people in Dobbs Ferry don't really remember her. And so let me say a few words about her. Gisela was born in Germany in 1927, and until the war ended in 1945, when she was 18 years old, she lived in Hitler's Germany. She was horrified by the Nazis. She and I talked about it because, to some extent, we have a common history. A few years after the war, she married an American who was then living in Germany named David Knight, and they came to the United States, and luckily for us, to Dobbs Ferry. I'm convinced, by the way, that because of her German birth, she felt a certain amount of guilt over the atrocities that the Germany of her youth committed, and she was determined to be the very best American that she could possibly be, and she was. She was involved in many committees and activities in Dobbs Ferry over the years. Among other things, she became the head of the local chapter of the League of Women Voters. And then she was a member of the board for a number of years and served, I think, with distinction. Then she was elected mayor, and as the mayor mentioned, the only female mayor in the history of Dobbs Ferry. I hope that's a record that will be broken at some point, but she was it. And after she finished her mayoralty, Paul Feiner appointed her as the comptroller for the town of Greenburgh. By the way, one of the things that everybody commented about her and noticed about her was incredible integrity, total integrity. And we used to joke that she was incapable of uttering a lie. But it wasn't really a joke. That's how she was. In 1992, Paul Feiner appointed her to be controller of Greenburgh, where she served until her retirement at about the year 2000. I don't remember the exact year. Paul told me that he admired her enormously, especially because of her honesty. He told me that she always told him what he needed to hear, not necessarily what he wanted to hear. Paul referred to her as a model public servant. The mayor honored her tonight. I just want the current Dobbs Ferry population to know who she was and how much she deserves the honor.
Thank you, Herb.
Good evening. I had the pleasure to serve on the village board with Gisela Knight for 7 years, from 1982 to 1989. For the last 5 of those years, Gisela was mayor. As mayor, she was tireless and very, very effective. She worked extremely hard. And I was thinking about her many accomplishments, and some came to mind that I'd like to bring up this evening. There are more than this, but these I remember, about 4 of them. She had great interest in planning and worked with the planning board often. She paid attention to all applications, even if they weren't going to reach the level of the board. She also was an energetic trustee liaison to the planning board for many years. She also had an excellent reputation and relationship with the Westchester County Planning Board, which helped Dobbs Ferry in many ways. Dobbs Ferry received a number of grants for special projects, and the one that really comes to my mind is a grant for the startup grant for the Fireman's Housing Project on Rochambeau Avenue. Gisela got that project started before she left as mayor in 1989. It continued, but she really got the ball rolling. Another item was the village pool. For some of you who have not lived in Dobbs Ferry that long, you may think that there was always a pool in Dobbs Ferry. That was not the case. For many years, we did not have a community pool. And one year, our board sent out a recreation survey, and what came back, number one, was a priority of the residents was the need and a want for a village pool. The board passed a resolution approving the construction of a village pool at Gould Park, not the one you see today, the other one, earlier one, which, by the way, cost $50,000 to build. But during the process, Gisela loved being involved with the pool, was always there during the construction with village administrator Peggy Slavin, and that was one of her really loves, and she made sure that that pool came in on time and on budget, which it did. And finally, she was a very active member of the Westchester Municipal Officials Association, which is, to me, is a very important tool, association for municipal officials in Westchester. She was on the executive committee for years, and she was a president for 1 year. Without question, Dobbs Ferry is a better community because Gisela and I lived here and was a public official here and was a mayor here. And I was extremely proud to serve with her on the village board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Since we last met, we've also had to suffer see on television, and many people may also know people who were in Israel when the terrorist attack happened on Israel. The Human Rights and Diversity Committee of Dobbs Ferry has issued a statement which the whole board stands behind, and I'd just like to read that statement to you. We want to extend our thoughts and support to any of our neighbors in Dobbs Ferry with ties to Israel and Gaza. We are all shaken by the horrific terrorist attacks by Hamas against Israel, the loss of lives, and the prospect of protracted violence and devastation to all those who live in the region. If someone you know is still in Israel and trying to get back to the U.S., you can contact our Congressman, Jamal Bowman's office, and they can connect you to the round-the-clock coordinating group at the State Department. Our county executive, George Latimer, announced yesterday that flags in Westchester County property will be flying at half-mast to honor those who have tragically lost their lives in the recent attacks. In the same spirit, I'd like to invite all of us to take a moment of silence before we go further, and send our hopes and prayers for peace going forward. So when we take a moment of silence for the people and the attacks that have happened there, and as well for former Mayor Knight. Thank you. Next item on our agenda would be the public hearing to address a local law for a zoning text amendment to Chapter 300 of the Dobbs-Surrey Code. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. Public hearing is now open. Welcome. Please tell us who you are and what this is all about.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Seth Mandelbaum with the law firm of McCullough, Goldberger, and Stout. Here on behalf of my client, Dr. Carrie Huter from Mabias Veterinary Services. As you heard last month, we have proposed a simple zoning amendment for the Chauncey Park District, specifically Rivertown Squares. Dr. Huter is interested in leasing Unit D10, which is about 3,100 square feet. Has never been occupied since Rivertown Square was constructed. Currently, animal-related uses are not permitted in the CP district. As you may recall, there's two categories, the general animal-related use and the intensive. We have proposed a zoning amendment just to permit general animal-related uses in the CP zoning district. Dr. Huter's practice is focused on internal medicine and diagnostic testing of smaller animals, primarily dogs and cats. He does not treat large animals, and he does not have overnight care or boarding of animals whatsoever. We went to the planning board last week, and they actually waived having a public hearing on their recommendation back to you and summarily adopted, actually it was earlier, excuse me, it was, I believe in September.
Yes, it was.
The planning board summarily gave a recommendation on the zoning and waived a public hearing, which they sometimes do on your referrals. And finally, Valerie Monastra forwarded to me a letter from county planning, which came in today, saying this is a matter for local determination. So that was another procedural item that we were waiting for. We are happy to answer any questions. Dr. Huter can give you more details about his practice if you would like. But that's essentially the proposal. And after the opportunity for public comment, we're happy to answer any questions.
And again, this is a local law to add the classification of animal-related uses general to the scheduled permitted uses in the CP zone. It's not specific to veterinarian offices. Veterinarian offices are one example of those animal-related uses general.
I think our concern is my concern is the overnight boarding of animals. So does this law protect us from that or
Yes,
prohibit
it
that?
does. It does. Those, that classification would be the intensive animal-related uses, and that's not before you in this local law. Valerie's here. She can speak to that.
Does allow for boarding of animals for medical purposes, so.
Right, so
Overnight.
it would be if the animal hasn't cleared anesthesia and needs to be kept overnight. That's what
Right.
this would
Right,
be.
but
So if the
not,
dog has-
it's not a boarding.
Right, so there's no kenneling, but if a dog has surgery and needs to
That's
spend the
correct.
night, that's fine.
correct.
But there's no, you can't leave your dog there for 2 weeks.
That's correct.
Correct.
Right.
You can't schedule a dog just for boarding, in other
Right.
words. It has to be in conjunction with.
I just
medical.
wanted to clarify, though, that it does allow for the boarding for the medical purposes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Could you just confirm, once again, do we have that intensive, what is it called, animal-related uses intensive? Is that the other classification?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that exist in any other zone?
The intensive, it does exist in other zones, just not the Chauncey Park zone. But I think the thought was for the general use, and this is something that I know the planning board was in support of, is that it does allow, the Chauncey Park zone allows for like medical offices. So it's very similar in situation.
So this is less even permissive than other available
correct.
uses in other zones in the
That's
village of
correct.
Dobbsbury. Got it, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Is there anybody online who wants to speak about this? Okay. Since there's nothing further, nobody wants to say anything further, is there a motion to close tonight's public hearing? Trustee Rosen Asher, second trustee Taylor, all in favor. The public hearing is now closed. And we have any discussion? I think we're ready to move forward on this. Is there any issue with that? Okay. So is there a motion to adopt the local law amending the Dobbs Ferry zoning code to permit animal-related uses general in the CP zoning district as outlined by Laura Ling? Trustee Rosen-Asher, second trustee Patino, all in favor. That passes unanimously, so good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, okay.
She's not participating, yeah.
One of the presentations that we have tonight is a presentation from the New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipal Officials, where people are honored for serving in their single community for 25 years or more. And for that, we would give them, well, actually, the NICOM gives them these recognition and these certificates. So we have a few of them today, which is always a gratifying thing to see that people who have been with us for such a long period of time, and we would love to honor them. So the first one on my list is the chief himself. So why don't I come down and just do it? Maybe it's easier. You got? Of course.
Every day.
No list of people that are being honored. Yeah.
25 years.
It's over 25, I just saw my 27.
I guess that comes with time. So the New York State Conference of Mayors, why don't you come on this side, I guess? New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipal Officials presents this 25-year certificate of public service to the chief. And we want to thank him for everything that he's done for us. We really appreciate it. And congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody. I can't believe where 25 years went. It just seems like yesterday when Mayor Mara swore me in on September, this was September 2nd, effective September 3rd, 1997. Here we are. I just want to thank everybody. I'm still here. I do this job because I love it. I love Dobbs Ferry, and I've been surrounded by great boards. I'm surrounded by great people. That to me has always been the secret of leadership. Is I surround myself with better people, and my officers have make my job easier. So it makes it easier for me to come in and every day. And also to my wife, I just appreciate your patience and understanding that, I get sometimes pulled back into Dobbs Ferry quite a bit. And my assistants, Beth and Karen, you may not, again, I've said this, there's some people here that may not have ever worn a Dobbs Ferry uniform, but they are very much part of the police department. And Beth and Karen are tremendous assets and have been so helpful over the last 6 years as your chief. I really am blessed and honored. Liz Draper is another one that's helped me out tremendously. Steve Trezza, I just go right down. Margaret, everybody, I just thank you all very much, and I really appreciate it.
Bring up the wife. Bring all the way down.
Right. Gotta have the wife.
Let's get a picture.
Thank you all for being so kind. Good job. I'm taking away a lot, but I totally understand it. I met him when he was a young village cop in Chester. Yeah.
Congratulations.
You. Just the next 25.
You're just getting started.
First 25 with a horse.
So we have another 25-year person. So New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipal Officials presents this 25-year certificate of public service, Karen Nimchek, for her service to Dobbs Ferry. So we want to thank her so much for what she's done. Karen, the microphone is yours.
It was a pleasure to serve the public for 25 years. We had chiefs through the 25 years, and we're going strong. A great department to work for.
Somebody you want to bring up with
No, I'm getting a no. You're all very bashful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh. Yes, yes, yes. Can you pronounce my name?
Thank you. I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have some
And so, Berthana, Beth, I'm sorry to tell you.
That's okay.
You
But
heard-
a lot of people still think Berthana because when I went to high school, I was
I
Berthana.
have first we've been and that's in your full name. Your certificate has not arrived yet. But we want to still acknowledge you, okay? So Beth has also have 25 years. We're going to use this as her certificate. So thank you very much for everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Microphone is yours.
I just want to say that it's been the absolute pleasure to work for the Village of Dobbs Ferry. Like Karen said, we've gone through 3 chiefs. Chief Rivera is one of the best guys that we could possibly have in the village to take care of us. I grew up at Dobbs Ferry, lived here all my life, and I'm just proud to be serving the village. Thank you.
Come on down.
Okay, don't get too close because we don't want them to not see the right name. Thank you again. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your service.
And last, certainly not least, Steve Trezna has been here for 35 years.
That
This guy comes a little behind on it. So again, New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipal Officials presents this 35-year certificate of public service to Stephen Trezna. We want to thank him for everything that he's done. It's been invaluable, and I look to him so much for advice on what's going on throughout the village. So thank you again, Steve.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful working here. Born and raised here. Started here when I was 18. So, thank you.
Don, right, that's always the best part about being the mayor. You get to do things like this, right? Right. For those of you who want to leave now, done everything with the presentations, now's the time to go. Now the meeting really starts, so it's up to you. I knew it, so go ahead.
Blue Exodus.
Write write those names down, everybody. Write those names down.
When I first saw the police here, I was wondering what kind of trouble we were all in.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a presentation on possible RFP regarding, which is request for proposals regarding affordable housing projects at the following locations: Palisade/Cedar Street parking lot, Cedar Street parcel 41-2, and Cedar Street parcel 41-4. Before Valerie makes her presentation, I just want to touch base a little bit about affordable housing while we're doing it, and I'm sure some of the other trustees may want to say, I think others add to this as well. Why are we doing this, and why are we doing it now? A couple of issues for me personally, and again, everybody else can speak for themselves if they feel they want to add anything. One of our goals is to always make Dobbs Ferry a more affordable place to live. For those of us who've lived here for many years, we can see that we want our children to be able to come back or graduate college or high school and have a place where they could afford to live. We want older people who are living on a fixed income to be able to stay in the village and contribute to the village. So it's always been a goal of ours to make this a place where it's more affordable. It is Westchester County, but we do want it to be as affordable as possible. We also want our workers to be able to live here as well. People who've worked here for 30 years, 25 years, we're not going to be able to get that kind of longevity if we don't make this place an affordable place to live. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing it. Another reason is, and I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but in the past, the governor has introduced a bill to, I don't want to use the word force affordable housing, but she's mandated affordable housing on municipalities throughout the state of New York. And some of those requirements would take us out of having any control of what happens with that affordable housing. And by that, I mean, one of the proposals was to have transit-oriented development, which would put housing right by our waterfront, right by our trains, and I think it would be a half a mile, maybe even a mile from that, which extends pretty far up. So that would happen, and where that would also take away some of the SECRA requirements, which are environmental studies and requirements that normally has to happen before development happens, and we would be bypassed with that. So when that came down, I was one of the mayors that wrote a letter, joined with some of the other municipalities against that project, against that proposal. The governor actually sent a representative down here. I met with that person. I explained why we were against that state-mandated affordable housing compact. She ultimately pulled that back, but I can promise you this, that there will be another version of that affordable housing, and I just think it's important that we as a village get ahead of that and keep control of it ourselves rather than giving it to the governor. Another reason is it's been a part of our vision plan. You know, our vision plan's been out there since 2010. The vision plan always envisioned a more reasonably developed downtown. This is one of those avenues to do that. And these properties right now are not being taxed. And if we go forward with this property would now become part of the tax roll, and we would get extra income from that. So those are the reasons why it's being considered, and I think people may say, well, the downtown's already crowded, there's already so much traffic, don't put any more people down there. You know, and in line with that, I actually looked at the census from 2010 and compared it to the census of more recent results of who lives here, and I believe that we've increased our population by about 562 people since 2010. So that sounds like it's a decent number of people, but then I thought most of them are at the Danforth. Right? Most of those people live at the Danforth who get shuttled to the train station, shuttled back at night. So the downtown really hasn't seen that much more increase in housing downtown. There are a few projects that have been put forth, but really hasn't happened yet. So those are the reasons why I think we should just look at this, and we'll go forward from there. Valerie?
Okay.
Long introduction, I know, Valerie.
And this is just a very, 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 very initial step. So it's not like you're looking to develop properties in the next month or even year, so.
Right.
I think if I could just, I'm sorry, before Valerie speaks, I'd just like to define affordable housing a little bit. The way affordable housing is defined, like we're not talking about Section 8 housing, we're not talking about charity or impoverished people. What we're talking about is in Westchester County, the AMI, which stands for, I get this wrong every time, Tracy Barron? Area median income is about $147,000. So when you're talking about affordable housing, you're talking about, with that as a baseline, usually people making
That's a family of four, right.
Family of four. You're talking about people making up to that or some percentage of that. So we're not talking about we're talking about teachers and people like that. And nurses. We're not talking about anything other than people who are making a pretty healthy share of a pretty healthy income.
That's correct, but I just want to clarify a couple things. Sometimes there are state programs that have different types of affordability requirements. So they could be up to sometimes 80%, sometimes 60%, or sometimes 50% of area median income. And also, in addition, just to clarify that Section 8 is protected under New York State as well as Westchester County as a source of income. So that's not necessarily, it's a separate program. And so many people in Section 8 do have jobs as well. But yes, I think what your point is that that affordable housing really is meant for everybody to be able to afford housing, and so that you're not spending 50, 60, 70, 80% of your income on housing. And in reality, ideally, you want to spend about 30, 35% of your overall income on housing. And that's where studies have shown that you're able to afford housing as well as then have discretionary spending to be able to buy things and be able to not be evicted from housing. So those are the issues that we find in Westchester County, is that at times housing costs are not keeping up with overall income, and that's the need for the affordable housing.
Okay, Valerie.
I just wanted to also say that I wanted to bring everyone back to the days of the pandemic when everyone wanted to support first responders and nurses and hospital workers, and they would stand out in the street and bang the pots and pans, or they would have pizzas delivered. But if you really want to support the people who keep you safe and the people who keep you well and the people who teach your children, then we need to have housing that they can afford to live in. So this is workforce housing that we're talking about, so that our children's teachers don't have to drive here from Staten Island, and so our police officers can afford to live in the communities that they serve. So that is our focus, and we're very, very dedicated to finding ways to do that.
Let's just add one more thing. We have 3 sites here, all of which are incredibly underutilized, 2 of which are, for the most part, eyesores. They are, well, I guess one has someone's growing some vegetables at one of them, but these are 2 sites on Cedar Street, both of which have been vacant for as long as I can remember. And the last is a parking lot, which historically has been massively underutilized, more recently a little bit more utilized, but I think as we'll see in this RFQ, there is some intention to maintain some of that parking, so that the recent changes to parking rules would allow that to continue to function as a village lot.
So I just want to, I'm going to highlight a little bit about, you have a draft RF, what we're calling an RFQ for request for qualifications in front of you. And as you already summarized, it focuses on the 3 parcels as described previously. And we are suggesting that the RFQ go out for responses to redevelop 1, 2, or all 3 properties, right? So that gives the board a little bit of flexibility. There are some decisions that I think this board might want to weigh in on in terms of the development of the request for qualifications and for a final draft for your review at a future a future village board meeting. But the first is really, we were just talking about affordable housing, right? So one of the things that I think the board needs to decide is whether you want to keep it flexible in terms of waiting, identifying that you want affordable housing component, but waiting to see what the developers put forth, or whether you want to specifically request for 100% affordable housing development. And that's something that I think would be helpful to get feedback on that concept. The other one is whether you want to retain the parking on Cedar Street, right? So whether you want to incorporate that parking into any sort of design. I think we talked about, or we put in there something to the extent of trying to retain about 50% of the parking that's currently here, but we can, if you want to have 100% of the parking that's currently.
Valerie, I don't want to interrupt you, but can you tell us who you are and what your role
Oh,
is? Because
sorry.
I totally realize that people may not even know who you are,
My
and what
name
you're
is
doing
Val-
here, and who you.
My name is Valerie Menastra.
So I'm totally sorry about that, everyone. It just hit me. Like, who are you, and why are you here, and why are you speaking to us?
I am Valerie Menastra. Sure.
Okay.
I'm Valerie Menastra from Nelson Pope and Voorhees, and I work as the village planning consultant.
Okay, so you work for us,
yes.
you're a consultant
That's
to
correct.
us, you're a village planner.
That's
This is your expertise.
That's
This is
correct.
what you do,
That's
and that
correct.
we've asked you to come prepare these requests, and you're now here to explain what our options are,
Yes.
right?
Do I live, no, I do not live in Dobbs Ferry, but I do live in the Westchester County in the Hudson Valley.
Okay.
And I'm-
Sorry to do that, but I just figured out many people don't know who you are, so.
All right, so, so there's a few.
Sorry to throw you off your
Yes.
game.
So the affordable housing component is one. The second is whether you want to require any developer to retain the parking on Cedar Street. Also compliance with the zoning chapter. So, technically right now, there's 2 properties in the DB, which is a downtown business district, and 1 property in the waterfront B district. And the downtown business district allows up to like four stories. It's 3 stories and then allows the extra story based upon board review. The WFB district allows up to 4 stories. It does have basically a density cap to a larger extent because it does require 2,500 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. Where the DB districts are a little bit more flexible in terms of density, you just have to have a minimum of 600 square feet per residential unit.
So could you say that and I keep doing this, but there's a lot of people here.
Yes, no,
So you
absolutely.
could say that in
So-
basic English.
so in
So how
basic-
tall can these buildings be? How big can they be?
So in basic English, they could be up to 4 stories.
Okay.
And in the 2,500 square feet, it means you take the total square footage of the lot. So for example, the Palisades Cedar Street lot, it looks like it's about 0.57 acres, which is about 25,000 square feet. So you would divide 2,500 divided by 25,000 square feet, and that's about 100, is it? 10 units, right? So that's something that this board might want to consider in terms of, allowing some flexibility with the zoning. Now, the
I just want to
flexibility
make sure
would
everyone
allow.
heard that. So we're talking 10 was the
Yes,
number we landed
that's
on.
correct.
10.
Right.
Right. So
Not 100.
to allow for that kind of flexibility, they could, you could put into the request for proposal that the board would be open to supporting a zoning variance in terms of
an
additional
overlay.
density or additional flexibility for the development of affordable housing. Another,
So the option is that you either have to comply with the letter of the law as it's written today, or the board could consider just including some language in here that would permit the developer to come in with a proposal that may require you to create an overlay zone or a supplemental zone or some way to accomplish what you're looking to do, and that would be to increase the affordable housing stock in the village.
And none of that flexibility, if we were to offer it through the RFQ process, binds us to doing anything.
No,
This is
it does
just
not.
asking
No.
for ideas.
Yeah,
So any
correct.
flexibility we might offer through the RFQ process does not make anything a fait accompli.
No, and the other way to accomplish the same thing would be to give density bonuses. You would permit an increase depending upon the level of affordability that you want to include in the, and again, this is a very preliminary, you're just looking for people to come in who are qualified to say, here's a concept I'd like to explore with you for one or two or three of these properties.
To be perfectly clear about this, this is very preliminary.
That's
It
correct.
does not obligate the village to do anything.
No.
That's correct.
And it's looking for a source of ideas to help us meet an objective about affordable housing.
Exactly.
And I'll make one other comment with respect to this, which is, it's not, creating affordable housing isn't the only goal or responsibility of this board. It also is to be effective stewards of the village's assets. And these are three assets of the village. So
That's
I'm
correct.
sorry to.
Nope, that's absolutely correct. And that's part of the reason why we're identifying RFQ, because the request for qualifications is basically you're looking for who the developer is, getting more information about that particular developer, and then they can provide you concept plans that you can sort of provide some feedback on. And it's not necessarily a request for proposal where you're saying we're absolutely going to develop a particular property.
Right. Right.
So,
This binds us to
we
nothing.
drafted this with the most amount of flexibility. In other words, without saying these need to be 100% affordable, we said a significant affordable component because we might have a developer that would come in with a creative idea to do some public benefit, to include a public benefit among the proposal, and then you're not locked into just 100% affordability. You want to be able to accommodate the creative ideas coming in from the qualified individuals who are out there walking among us.
I mean, are we having a conversation? Okay.
Okay, so there's just a couple more things. And so if we don't have to make final decisions tonight, I mean, we can even just begin this as a dialogue, and I can come back to a future meeting. Another thing that this board might want to consider is whether you want any other kind of green building requirements. I know that's something important to the board, as well as adherence to the design guidelines that you have established in your zoning. And then also whether you want to require a public engagement process in addition to what would normally be your normal review process, which would be, your public hearings in front of your various land use boards.
Okay.
So those are, I think, the I guess, basically a summary of some decisions that we would want to maybe either provide some additional language into the RFQ for consideration, or if you specifically want to mandate certain things, we can also add that into the.
And what would you recommend as far as the type of proposal we put out? So would it be as general as possible, saying we would like the concepts of either all affordable or market rate with some affordable or combinations? What would you recommend?
Right, so if you require 100% affordable, which you can do, you will get developers that primarily focus on affordable housing. You might get, if you say you want a significant component of affordable housing, you could get some developers that tend to maybe have like a different type of partnership. In terms of, I'm working on a project right now where you have like a market rate developer along with an affordable housing developer joined forces to develop a particular project. So you could get some sort of combination thereof. I mean, one of the things I think you will find, though, is that I think if you're going to go 100% affordable, you might want to definitely indicate that your willingness to look at the zoning right? And look at potential zoning variances, because I think in terms of, you'll need some additional units probably in order to make especially for the Cedar Street parking lot work, especially if you're going to include parking and require parking to be put into a structure as well. I think they're going to need additional density in order to make that project work.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody want to talk right now?
I just have I have a question. So I'm assuming that these would be, though, because it is on Cedar Street, for the ones that are on Cedar Street would have retail or something on the
Yes.
bottom. So if the housing is affordable, does then the retail space need to be affordable? Is
No,
that
it does
market
not.
rate retail space? So
Right.
that's different? Okay.
That's correct.
So that's why I sort of broadened the language to include the significant affordable component, because you also elsewhere indicate that you're looking for the developer to meet the current zoning to the greatest extent possible. And I know that you're required on the 2 Cedar Street lots to have on the first floor that the residential dwelling units are not permitted on the first floor. So that's why we worked on broadening the language to that degree.
I think that the Cedar Street properties, there's sort of sufficient flexibility built in. I mean, they're small lots. We're not talking about building skyscrapers. I do think that if we were to entertain ideas about 99 Cedar, that we should probably indicate some greater flexibility with zoning, such that it becomes a more viable, attractive property, especially if we want a significant or at least highly tilted in favor of affordable units. So I think that flexibility is important, at least as far as the 99 Cedar goes.
For me, I would like to maintain the parking at Cedar Street, because I don't want to lose that, because I think we've started to make some movement on that. So that would be a requirement that I would like to have on there. And I'd also like to keep it as flexible as possible. So like I think Laura Lee was alluding to, maybe Matt, when you see that 99 Cedar Street project, you may think, we could do something really good or something otherwise for the village in addition to that, because that's a great opportunity, I think. So if we can keep it as broad for them to come back with their ideas. And again, we can reject every single idea and decide, no, we're not going this way. So
Right.
that would be my preference.
Or resubmit an RFQ. I agree with what you're saying, Vinnie. I think it's absolutely essential that we maintain every single parking space in that lot. And the reason is, in addition to general growth in the village, in addition to greater use of that lot, any development of these 3 sites is going to have cars in excess of our zoned parking requirements. So once we give up those parking spaces, we'll never get them back. So I think that's got to be essential, and I agree it should be very flexible. And if the ideas that we don't like, we could go back out and put other parameters on it.
And let me just say for the public that we will certainly have public hearings, meetings. This is not going to be, you're not going to see a building built tomorrow without anybody's input in it. So this is very, very much the beginning of this.
Right, I mean, typically, I'll just kind of walk everybody through, like a request for qualifications process. I mean, typically, when a process like this takes place, you'll go out for requests for qualifications, you'll get submissions, then you might invite a few of the developers back to provide presentations, additional information, and then maybe the board might identify a particular developer to move forward with in the initial phases of developing a more concrete plan. And so all of that will be done at public meetings, and then ultimately, if the board decides to move forward and actually engage a particular developer and work on contracts with them, then they would begin their normal land use process. So it would still require, your seeker reviews. It would still require any board reviews in terms of, land use approval process. If it requires zoning variances, it would be the zoning board, planning board, et cetera. So it would go through its normal approval process like any other project.
Right.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions you raised for us so you can get
Sure.
to the drafting component of this, which I think we're all in general agreement that we would like at least the RFQ process to move forward. On the affordable housing question, I think that this village isn't in the business of real estate development for market rate. We have a particular problem of affordability, and we want to make some inroads to on that problem. And so I think it should be, all affordable from a RFQ process. I think that on the parking retainage, having looked at this site a little bit from a site planning perspective, I do think we should retain some parking. I think the idea that we retain it all would be likely detrimental to a good project there. So I would like to see some flexibility in terms of the parking requirement.
We haven't sold out that parking lot yet.
And we never will. But I'm just going to give my opinion. Everyone else can.
50 instead of 60.
Yeah, I think it should be some spectrum. I don't think all of it really is necessary. On the zoning, I think we've had a number of discussions. The planning board has talked about this, Affordable Housing Task Force. You have talked about this. We have, 2,500 square feet per dwelling unit is excessive. I've been living in a much smaller house for quite some time, and we're very comfortable and happy in that. So I think that we should, and by the way, 2,500 square foot units are not affordable houses by definition. So at the very least, there needs to be some either, whether that's an overlay district, which is probably, and this is technical, probably the easiest way to achieve what we want to do. But I think that some flexibility to the zoning is a necessity, again, for the affordability component. So I'd like to see that in there. On the Cedar Street lots, I think the zoning requirement of ground floor retail is, I'd like to maintain, because I think it's important that those buildings fit into the context of Cedar Street. And the context of Cedar is that the first floor is retail. So I wouldn't want to modify that. Energy, this is a big question. What happens so often at this board is that we overlook it at the beginning, and at the very end we say, oh, and by the way, you want to throw in some extra energy measures. We do that with a lot of things. For example, a prevailing wage, we throw it in at the last minute. If we want those things, we have to tell people from the very beginning what energy goals we want them to meet. And so I think we should define that now, and that anyone who's not interested in that kind of project just doesn't apply for the job. I would argue that this project should lead by example, what we want the future of the village to be. And so I would say that we ask for very forward-looking energy consumption type buildings. And maybe we use something like a passive house standard as a way to do this. And I think there are a number of developers who build those types of buildings, and they don't, the modest increase to the capital outlay is more than accounted for in the operational costs over short periods of time, 5 years or so. So I would argue that we should ask for the best possible project. There's also a number of grants available for projects like that wouldn't otherwise be. And then the last is public process. I think it is crucial that we have a robust community involvement, whether that is, I think it starts here. We hear from people. We're going to hear courtesy of floor, I hope. But those are information sessions. Those are community forums. And those are built around some initial design ideas so that we can shape the project according to what the board is interested in seeing, what the neighbors are interested in seeing, what the community as a whole would like to have. So I think that you should include some requirement that they prepare for a very healthy community engagement process. Thank you for putting this all in front of us.
So I think Michael and I disagree on two things already.
Okay.
So I don't know how you're going to work. Do we have to all, can we come up with a?
No, but I'll be able to come up with some sort of
We can work on that, because I disagree with some of what Mike is saying.
Yeah, we can add
I agree with all
the
of that.
language to expand the possibilities. I don't know, Valerie and I've been doing this quite a long time, as Michael has as well. Having that heightened energy standard plus 100% affordability, it really limits your ability to find a large pool of qualified individuals. So we can put the language in so it makes it sound like you'll be giving special consideration to these things and to this creative idea, and so we can work on to expand it in that direction. You know, and also 100% affordability, you're going to be looking for the developer to come in with 80% AMI units, 60% AMI units. You know, you want sort of a smattering of different levels because you want to make sure you're covering.
Right, well, it depends, they
covering
might
that
also,
spectrum.
depending on the program, because my guess is a lot of them will come in with some sort of funding
Yes,
already
it-
identified, so that also then will be.
It'll have to be that tax benefit, the tax
I think we should
credit.
ask them for information about funding sources that they intend to use and any restrictions that come with those funding sources, so we have a more full idea of what they're talking about. And I think that should be at the beginning of the process. And, you know, obviously subject to adjustment through the public engagement process, but they should be prepared to lead that public engagement process.
Yes.
Can I share an additional thought? And I, of course, don't know how to capture this in the RFQ, but given that we are in the beginning stages of this downtown consulting engagement and working on a more comprehensive approach to downtown improvement and economic development in the village, I would love to see ideas from developers who are interested in these lots for how to encourage more non-single occupancy automobile users in these buildings. So parking is, of course, a huge issue in the downtown, both on the street and in the lots. We all know this. We all are working to improve this. But how, you know, are there going to be ideas for, you know, electric chargers in the off-street parking for the either for the residents or that can be shared by non-residents of those buildings? If we put whatever percentage of 99-seater spots get incorporated into some future additional structure, you know, ensuring that the electrical plan from day one is level 3 chargers to bring more people to downtown Dobbs Ferry to patronize our downtown. Thinking about, are we putting bike racks in? Are we putting small vehicle parking into those parking spaces so that we are encouraging people to use the village as a walkable, bikeable village? And of course, also accessibility for folks with different mobility issues, to make sure that we are keeping downtown Dobbs as walkable and bikeable as possible while adding as few cars as possible. I would love to see those creative ideas being brought to bear, given the, you know, the importance of these potential lots to the future of our village in some of the ways that Mike mentioned.
Okay.
I'd also say that there's a very big difference between the two small parcels on Cedar Street and the big parking lot at the end of Cedar
Right.
Street. And I think that this should have enough flexibility because, as you said, it could be that there'll be a developer who's only interested in two small ones, not the big
Right.
one, or the big one and not the two small ones. And they have they're in different places, and so there's different issues that affect them. I agree with a lot of what Trustee Patino said, and I think that the goal is, if we're going to go towards affordable housing, is to kind of shoot the moon and try to get it to all be affordable. That may not be the case, but I think it would be short-sighted if we didn't look at energy efficiency and sustainability when we're doing this, because I do agree that this should be what's going to set the precedent for what comes after. So even if things we do after are not all affordable, they should all be energy efficient and sustainable, and that should be the goal that we're working towards for the future of the village.
Okay.
Okay, Valerie, so it sounds like you have your work cut out for you.
Yes. So I think the board made some good decisions. I think we have, Lori Lee and I have a clear idea of where you want to go, and we'll continue massaging the RFQ, and hopefully we'll have a almost final draft next time.
Can I just say, before we And we have an affordability housing task force, there's done a lot of work behind this. And I don't know if they have some comments to make at this point. And, obviously we want to know what your feedback is now that you've seen this. And so I know it's not, like, what do we do with the discussion?
We'll just try to make this a courtesy of the floor type situation. So you're done, right? Okay, so courtesy of the floor, we'll open it up to Tracy. You want to come first? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tracy Barron. I'm the co-chair of the Affordable Housing Task Force. I didn't have anything prepared. I just wanted to listen, and you really all brought up the points that I was going to bring up. So good job, and I applaud you for trying to move this forward and see if there's anything we can do. I want to just reiterate the importance of anyone who says they're qualified must absolutely show us how they can lead the public engagement process, because that is key to this whole thing. So to me, that's number one, to make sure that it's clear and that they put in their response exactly how they would do that and their experience in doing that. I also just, given that whatever RFQ is eventually agreed after Valerie works her magic, will be a public document, I assume. I just would suggest that perhaps affordable housing be defined as a legal term, because a lot of people don't understand that that's a legal program. There's definitions. I believe it's defined in our code, but if it's not, we can refer to.
You do have it defined in your code. I think the issue is, depending on the program, it gets defined differently. So what we could do is we could just say at minimum, right? And then say it needs to meet at least the Dobbs Ferry definition of affordable housing, which I believe is like, you have 60% for rentals, and I believe it's 80% for sale. So we can refer to that definition, and then from there, if there are other programs that somebody's looking to seek funding for and have some other types of, income distribution, they can identify that in the RFQ process.
Okay, go ahead. I just want, Tracy, can you also address, don't want people to think that this came to us out of a vacuum. And Tracy alluded to herself as being the co-chair of the Affordable Housing Task Force, which we appointed. Maybe you could just tell us how long you've been working on this and what you guys have been doing.
Mr. Mayor, can you just explain how courtesy of the floor works so everyone in the room knows that they're going to get the chance to?
Yeah, they know, right? I mean, everybody knows they're going to talk, right?
I don't know.
Everybody will have a chance to talk.
Everyone has 3 minutes, right.
So the Affordable Housing Task Force began our work 3 or 4 years ago. It was before the pandemic. That's how we judge time. And we've been as all volunteers, but we are the goal of our task force is to find policy suggestions and bring them to the board for ways we can improve affordability in Dobbs Ferry. And legally set aside affordable housing is one way to do that. That's not the only way, but that is one thing. Many of us have attended training at Pace University's Land Use Law Center. And we've also did a couple years ago a big community forum where we asked people to come and attend by Zoom and give us their input on what they thought about housing in Dobbs Ferry. We asked for ideas in that forum from the people who came as to, like, where could you imagine, are there places in the village that are underutilized? Like, where could we have housing? And these lots came up as suggestions. And so we had a list, we kept a list, and we sort of, as a group, have been exploring the feasibility of these various lots. And so we decided to sort of look at these as, since they're village owned. So that's kind of a bit of the story. And we also attended yet another training at Pace where a group of people from different villages kind of went through a exercise of pretending to see how feasible would be developing affordable housing in various lots. And we used these as our exercise. So that's some of the education and training we've been doing to sort of bring us here. Still, obviously, there's a long way to go, but that's a little bit of background if that's helpful.
Yes, we appreciate all the work and time and effort that you guys have put into this, so thank you.
Yeah, and I would just, my suggestion if we define affordable housing, is we maybe say, for example, that it's, one of the ways you can define it is it's marketed in accordance with the Westchester County Fair and Affordable Housing Affirmative Marketing Plan, which is a requirement by law. And also maybe just explain, just in English, that eligibility is based on an applicant's income, which is expressed as a percentage of Westchester County area median income. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a legal definition, but if someone is picking up this document, they understand it's not just what I think is affordable or what you think is affordable, because we all have different ideas, but that it's legally defined.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now while we're in the courtesy of the floor, when you come up, just tell us who you are, where you live, and you have 3 minutes to speak, and we have a clock that keeps track of those 3 minutes, so you want to come up first? Come up.
My name's David Drucker. I live at 100 Cedar Street, Village Green. I'm sitting here and I have no idea what you're talking about. You identified 3 parcels that are now going to be considered as sites for affordable housing. I know Cedar Street parking lot. What are the other 2 parcels? You have a number for it, that means nothing.
You know,
What are those other parcels?
there's no address because there's no specific place, but Valerie, maybe you can tell us where they are exactly so people have a reference. I know, I thought we would have something on the
But
screen.
obviously, they're on Cedar Street.
Yes.
They're on Cedar Street.
The properties owned by.
Yeah,
As you-
Let Valerie try to explain it first.
Yeah, they're both, one is near or actually, we could probably pull them up on Google Maps.
While she's saying that, maybe Mike, you could, it's across the street from or next door.
Yeah, if you were to walk up from your building, and when you pass the aqueduct on the left, there's the first building there. Then after that, there's an empty lot. And it's being used as like a garden or something like that. You go, and then there's another building after that, and then across from the church.
Across from the church, yeah.
Yeah, across from the church. And as you continue up Cedar, there's past the second house, there's another empty lot. There's a couple of trees in it, nothing in there.
Okay, that helps.
Those are the 2 sites.
And those 3 lots have been chosen because they are owned by the village?
It's partially, yes. So we have some say over what to do with it.
So you don't want to get involved into eminent domain and
Right.
spending money needlessly on property. You want to use property that you have.
Exactly.
That's vacant. Yeah.
It's commendable. I think affordable housing is very significant. I think it's important. I have kids who live in town who can't afford to live here.
Right.
So you have my vote for that. Problem that I'm having is that those 2 lots are, I assume they're not very large. Have you decided how many units of affordable housing you want to put into the village?
Well, that's what Valerie was saying, that the law only, I think the most is 10, is that what you said?
Well, that's for the Cedar, that's for the parking lot. The other ones will probably, the other ones can fit up to, well, each site is really small on the other 2 sites. The other 2 sites are only about a 1/10 of an acre and a 15.15 acres.
But I think a good
So-
way to look at it is, look at the building to the left,
Yeah.
look at the building to the right, and they're going to be about the same size, and they're going to fit about the same number of apartments. So if there's, 2 on each floor above the storefront, that's probably what's going to happen in the new build. But we don't, we're going to let people come up with interesting
That
ideas.
helps understand it a little better. Another issue, which is even, I think, more significant, is the consideration of the parking lot that the village built to replace the old DPW location. The primary reason, if I've lived here long enough to listen to these things, and the primary reason that that parking lot was created was not really a source of income, but it was an opportunity to allow people to put their cars there so they could shop.
Yes.
Because the stores on Cedar Street were dying.
Right.
So that changed?
No, that's why I'm saying those parking lots going to stay there.
And you're going to put housing on top within the parking lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the footprint
Be
of the
like a
parking lot
garage.
that we're talking about.
It'll be above that. You're
We're
gonna
looking
park your
for-
car still, and then people will live above it.
Like a creative
So you're
idea.
gonna build like, there'll be parking under the new structure?
Possibly.
That's one idea, yes.
Right. The goal here is to solicit ideas from developers who know how to do this, and for our document to give them guidelines, such as, we have a parking lot with 66 municipal parking spots. We want to have somewhere between X and Y% of those survive as municipal parking spots. So whether it's underground, whether it's above, however a developer wants to come to us with an idea that meets the requirements that are laid out in the RFQ, then that's what we will consider. I think I can safely say that after spending a year and change wrestling with parking, nobody up on here wants to get rid of parking spots. So the goal there, to have public parking, the strategy that we've adopted to try to make that specific lot, which was for years radically underutilized for the purpose that you correctly defined, we have now seen we are now trying to move village employees of the stores there, and as you've already seen, we've made it possible to find parking on Cedar Street and Main Street again, because we've removed some of the sort of the longer-term meter feeders from there. So that is having parking there is central to that strategy, and there is none of us, I think, that are looking to chuck that over our shoulders.
Well, no, it's not just the parking lot, it's the staircase that you built on Cedar Street also.
Sure.
There's a big investment went into making sure that people use it.
We're not looking to waste any of those investments.
But the problem that I see with that concept, I'm sorry.
Yes, you are over,
Two more
David,
minutes
but I'll give you,
left.
go ahead.
The problem that I see with that concept is you said that these affordable housing structures will have to have some kind of, we used to call them taxpayers, businesses on the ground level,
That's on Cedar Street, Upper Cedar Street, not on the
not
parking lot.
down at the parking lot, because nobody's going to be able to survive there.
Right.
Right.
Okay. The last thing I would want to say is, just the way, Mayor, you had to explain who this person was after she was talking for 5 minutes. It would have been helpful if we had started with that.
You're absolutely right, and it didn't hit me until 5 minutes in. You're absolutely right. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
You know what, I'm so used to having her here that she's,
I didn't even realize.
Thank you for your comments and thoughts.
anybody else? Go ahead.
My name's Anthony Rizzo. I live at the Village Green as well. I'm just concerned about where the parking lot is, very congested area, like we just had the Ferry Fest. So in event of emergency, how does the fire department, the police department come to help us, or Draper Lane as well? Because it's hard to come out. There's only one way out, which is down Palisades. And in event, the Halloween parade, there's other festivities you guys do in the town. So I'm just more concerned about our safety. I have young kids. There's a bus stop over there as well. And you're gonna have more people. There's gonna be, and the infrastructure of plumbing, electric, EV cars. Is the village prepared to handle all that?
Right, that's going to be part of the proposal, and we'll see what they have to offer. Even during the construction, we want to make sure that everyone is safe, absolutely. So we will take a look at that, yes. And you could play a role by coming here and telling us, in reality, that doesn't work, or you don't think that's the right approach. So just keep watching and come on down.
Yeah, I'll definitely come by when I'm available. I'm a hospital. I'm an essential worker as well, so I'm aware of how this stuff works. I'm just more concerned congestion in that area.
Right.
Is coming in and coming out
Get it.
for safety purposes.
One thing, just to remind everyone that may be helpful for these meetings as you're looking at this, the materials that we receive they're available on the village website when the agenda is posted. So that would give you a chance to look ahead of time to be able to.
I don't know if you guys are aware, our property, if civil engineers got behind that parking lot, there's a ravine there that is decaying to the river. So if you're going to be building something, is it going to be solid to the ground, that it's not going to shift or move for safety as well?
Right. There will be full engineering examination of anything that is going to be built. if anything is going to be built. Again, we're just looking for ideas at this point. We're not
And another
We're not
question I had,
laying concrete.
the other question of affordable housing, is it going to be for just Dobbs Ferry employees, people that work in the village,
We-
Westchester County?
We haven't looked at what,
Social
I don't know how we're going to do it. I mean, I don't know, Valerie, maybe you can speak to that, about how that works.
Yes, so usually affordable housing is usually not restricted to a particular community.
I think we're allowed to restrict it to a community,
Right,
right?
that's correct.
Right. So you
No,
can't say
based
that.
upon
we
the
only-
tax credit program that will be necessary in order for a developer to afford to put up affordable housing, based upon that program, they're not allowed then to provide preferences.
Right,
You also mentioned about storefronts.
right,
I mean, there's empty storefronts on Main and Cedar.
right.
People are going to walk down the hill.
We're not,
We're not
there's no zoning, we don't
advertising
zone for
Cedar.
storefronts on Palisades, so that would not be either desirable or required.
The two on Cedar Street would have commercial storefronts like the rest of Cedar Street. The one at 99 Cedar, the parking lot, would not have commercial frontage.
And I noticed too, there's another piece of property, I don't know if the city owns, at the end of Livingston by the Cabrini, which I guess used to be a restaurant there.
Right.
Right.
It's been empty.
We can't talk about that today. This is-
No, we're not even supposed
not
to
ours.
respond.
We don't own to that.
Privately owned.
It's not owned by the village.
That property empty for 10 years.
I
It
know.
is-
That's a long story.
Okay.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. When that does come up, you can come and talk about it.
Yeah, it's a nice piece of property.
It is.
We are anticipating the developer to come back on that, but that's
Do we
for
have anyone
another
else?
day.
Okay. Anybody else?
Did you have?
Why don't you come on up?
For my time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your comments.
You want to lower that? Valerie, can you lower that for her?
I don't know. I can't hear anybody. I didn't hear a word he said. But, yeah. My name is Jean Greenberg, and I represent 110, 150 Draper Lane. And I came here tonight just to find out what you were planning on doing with that parking lot, because as we all know, parking is a big problem in the downtown and even for us. We have 80 units, and we do have a parking lot in the back, but it is not adequate, for our needs, because some of our families have 3 or 4 cars, which is what happens now. Everybody has a car. So, I just want to put in a word for keeping that parking lot, because I know it looks underutilized, but by the end of the night, most of those spots are filled. It's sort of like an overflow for our buildings, and I'm not going to speak for the Village Green, but I think it is for them too. And of course, during the day, those spots can be used for people that want to park and visit Cedar and Maine, what stores are left. So it's interesting that you're thinking of keeping the parking lot and then building on top of it.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't realize that would be a possibility. Would those spots still be available for general parking?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, because it's really, we don't want to lose sight of, the parking. It is a big
Absolutely.
problem.
Right.
And also, it is awfully congested down that area. And I know if you're going to add 10 more units down there, it's getting difficult even to come into our areas. Village Green doesn't want 110, 150 Draper going through their property, and it is getting kind of congested. So think of that, when you talk about adding 10 more units, and not to mention that other building that's going on, down the corner.
Right.
Just so you know, it is getting a little bit congested down there.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
We'll take
I
it.
also have another question about that property where the parking lot is. I've been living here a long time, and I've been on the board of 110, 150 for probably 25 years or more, and I've been president for, I don't know, I lose track. But I remember years ago when the DPW left that space, and some of us were talking about maybe turning that into a skate park or something for the kids. And we were told at that time that there was a lot of toxic stuff that had been kind of dumped down there. And I'm wondering if that was just a rumor or something that was told to us. But I always wonder about that, because if you're going to build a residence on top of that, and I know there were sinkholes going on,
Yeah.
is that even a safe?
There are,
Yeah.
there are grants that are specifically
Yeah, for
about
doing that,
clearing
yeah.
brownfields in order to make
Yeah. Yeah,
safe
'cause-
space for housing.
Yeah, because it's, that's something you have to consider too, if you're going to
Yes.
put a bunch of people there. Is it even, is it even safe?
Right.
Yes.
I think
That's a
it-
good
you know,
point.
Having a parking lot is fine there, but I don't know if I'd want to actually live above it, if you
Right.
know what I mean.
That's a
So
good
I just
point.
went- these are things that we heard at the time, and I'm not sure if they're true.
If there are toxins there, there will be a remediation plan before
Yeah,
anybody, we're not, turning Dobbs Ferry into Love Canal.
Yeah, okay, just to be sure. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Patty? Patty?
Here, we have to save the best for last.
Good evening, Cyrus Manduabi, Integral Engineering Services, 27 Main Street.
I have no idea what
I think that the parking issue, obviously, everyone's, numb to it at this point. But I think that in order for us to get viable candidates, we need to prime the area for them to come in. And I think that we kind of have our ideologies in a box. Oh, we have all this parking here, and we have to keep it. And I'm here to propose just flipping that on its head and prioritizing convenience, because people will not come to our community unless it's convenient for them, right? You want to be able to pull up to a parking spot and go into the store, spend your money, come out. And I think that right now, the way that the cities, the communities plan should fundamentally change. And there's a couple of communities that have changed that, which is Bronxville and Pleasantville specifically, where their downtown area becomes a one-way for vehicles and traffic. And then there's the parking spots are shifted into 45-degree angle, and you can almost double, triple the amount of parking spots that you can fit into the same exact location. So I'd like for people to consider that as well from a planning perspective, and also to make sure that, the developers that come in aren't, bogged down by, parking and those types of situations. Also, this is courtesy of the floor, so I can move on from the parking.
Within 3 minutes.
You got 112
I would
left.
like to thank your efforts for the Verizon. I really appreciate it. I know that there's people in the administrative staff that have helped. We have been helping as well as through our emails and correspondence. Whatever I can do, let me know.
Do you think of volunteering for one of these committees that we have? Have you ever thought about that? Because you seem to be very.
Downtown committee.
I'm sorry?
You want to talk about the downtown committee?
I think you should join one of these committees,
For traffic.
If I can bring the south of.
Yes.
Yes.
please.
Yes,
absolutely.
I think that would be great.
Go on to the nominating committee and pick which one you want to join and
Yep.
send in an application, please.
If I can.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It did take 30 seconds of your time.
I will give you
though.
the 30 seconds back.
This was, so we've been working with Verizon and Optimum. Optimum reran their cables, but really the unsightly cables need to be removed.
They do.
I
Downtown
don't know
committee.
how
Downtown
much
No.
sway you have with the Optimum executive staff and from the people on the ground that I've spoken to that were helping us. A lot of those cables are not being used.
Yeah, they're dead.
And it would really help the community. And again, I'll give the local law 11 spiel again, but, just beautifying the areas is important to, again, get people to come and invest, in our community.
You're right. You're right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, could you say your name again, please?
How do you spell that for? You need him to spell it?
Got it.
Wait. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Okay, Patty.
Patty.
Okay, wait.
No, you're, I have to go.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Carolyn LaRosa, and I'm the president of the Board of Village Green in Dobbs Ferry. Thank you. I'll be brief. I didn't expect to speak to you this evening, but the people at Village Green, for the most part, most of us, are vehemently opposed to any housing in the parking lot. We are totally congested with trucks, all kinds of trucks going in and out, speeding down Cedar Street. We just don't want it. We don't want more people moving into that neighborhood, our neighborhood. Probably not yours, right?
Mhm.
So you have to know that we are 91 units. She has 80 units. We are a lot of people. And there are a lot of trucks coming in and out. And that, we feel, is not an appropriate place to build your affordable housing or any housing. We just think that you should find another location. We don't disagree with it, but not there. And that's basically what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Make sure you follow us and keep coming down, okay? Because you guys have, both of you represent a lot of houses, so yeah,
Yeah, we do.
right,
The whole area.
right. So you,
It's congested.
right, okay. So stay involved and, you know, have some input.
Too many trucks constantly.
Right, I know your pain. Come on up, Patty.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Patty Steinschneider. Wear several hats in the village, as you guys know. One of the hats I also wear is the Chief Operations Officer for the Congress for the New Urbanism, New York chapter. And in that role, I've been working on this since last January in a very different place. I've been working on it with the governor and the state. And actually, I'm one of the 5 people who's organizing a housing summit, which will be at the end of January, January 25th, 26th. Everybody here is going to be invited. Everybody everywhere in the state is invited, but we're probably only going to get like 200 people, but they'll be the people who really care about this. A couple of things that were said that just have to be understood differently. First of all, in Hochul's shot across the bow last January, she came out with very, very strong points, such as eliminating zoning within a half-mile of a transit stop, which with eliminating the zoning, in other words, no height limit, no density limits. She also included in that, though, that communities would be able to opt out of being under consideration of the state coming and taking over if they produced 1% growth in their housing for 3 years in a row.
I thought it was 3%.
Total's 3%, 1% per year for 3 years.
Okay.
So and upstate, it's 1% in 3 years for the whole, 1% total. So the antidote was quite easy to take. It's like, you get that one little shot and you're better kind of thing. So people weren't looking at it. I got letters from a lot of the people who were in the Westchester Municipal Officials Association. They had real problems with decimal points. One of the mayors said, what we're looking at is increasing our population by 10,000 people if this goes through. I had them redo the math and they came out and realized it was 100.
Really?
Yeah, so it was quite a different thing. So getting the facts first, then we can distort them as much as we want. At least let's get the facts first. You mentioned something about the interests. What are the interests that are driving this, the interest in this community? The interest really is social justice. This is not something we're doing because we have some extra lots, or we think it would be a nice idea, or we need more feet on the street, or we need more tax base, all those things being true. What this is really about is maintaining a community that's sustainable and resilient. Right now, we're getting interesting storms. Rainstorms, we're not really a problem with sea level rise in Dobbs Ferry. If the sea level comes up to Palisade Street, we don't really have to sweat it because everything else is gone. So what we really need to deal with is what we're experiencing on a daily basis, which are these new storm cloudbursts, superstorms. I can imagine a situation where somebody is living in their house and then all of a sudden we have one of these storms and they've got real serious problems. And what I want them to be able to do when they run down the street to knock on a neighbor's door, I want them to be able to knock on somebody other than a lawyer, doctor, or financial planner. I want them to be able to knock on the door of an electrician or a plumber or a municipal worker, somebody who can actually come to their house and help them. We need that kind of sustainable community. That'll make us stronger. When we talk about affordable, we need to, Dobbs Ferry affordability, where do we cut off from being affordable? Isn't it at 60 or 80%? 120% affordable, 100%, 20% of AMI is a stretch in the community of Dobbs Ferry. 70% AMI for a single person means they're paying rent of $1,985 a month. So this is not cheap housing, even the low percentages. People need housing in Dobbs Ferry. They need housing in Westchester. They need housing in lots of places. Things are changing, and we need to be getting ahead of this and doing this correctly. You guys have identified 3 properties, which were identified, I think, 10 years ago. And the first time I remember them identified was in 1983, when Dolph Rotfeld actually fell down the hill with Martin Greenberg, who was one of the trustees at the time. And everybody thought he was going to get injured and sue the village, but he didn't. Basically, last couple little points, again, getting the facts right. MDR2 is 800 square feet per residential units. So what you're talking about, 25,000 is 30 units. When we looked at that property with part of 145 Palisades, we had 24, which worked pretty well with 2 floors. That can make a good project. Again, you have to deal with all the issues that the people here have mentioned. And there is no limit of units in the downtown business district. It's a form-based zone. It's limited by height and percentage of site coverage and the fact that you can't have a unit that's less than 600 square feet. So there's no limit there. You shouldn't impose one. We worked really hard in 2010 to make sure we didn't have one. Let's not let those kind of things creep back in. It's a disaster, but that's not what I'm here for tonight.
Patty, the 3 minutes are way up.
I know. Well, the only reason I came tonight is I want to thank a couple of people. I want to thank the chief. I want to thank Steve and Jen and the people who showed up on Saturday. A couple of trustees sitting up there braving the storm for 2 hours in the pouring rain. And if anybody wants to argue about why we did it, they know where to find me. We don't have a lot of options. We did the best that we could. We made the most sense out of it. It was actually quite nice in the late afternoon when the rain dropped, and everything worked nicely.
Okay.
And I thank the board and trustees for letting us have that block party every year.
Well, we want to thank you for all the efforts that you did and your whole committee for that.
Yes.
You did. So
I do very little.
thank you very much, Patty.
Thank you much.
Okay, so for those of you who want to leave, now's the time to leave.
It gets more boring from here.
Thank all of you for your input tonight.
Thank you.
I don't know, I was going to, I didn't want to.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
it'd be interesting.
Waiting to have a clear room.
Okay, so now we're going to the resolution. So the first item is to consider a resolution accepting the annual audit of the village justice court records and docket for fiscal year ending May 31, 2023. Is there a motion to accept the annual audit as we received it? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Second item is to consider a resolution approving the starting of a change drawer for the village justice court. We have I think a letter memo from the treasurer explaining why it's necessary. It certainly makes sense. So is there a resolution approving a starting change drawer for the village justice court office? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 3 is to consider a resolution to award a contract after competitive bidding for a project to complete improvements at the intersection of Ashford Avenue, Storm Street, and Grandview to improve existing conditions and pedestrian safety. I think we received Valerie left, right? So we have a memo from one of the engineers at Nelson Pope and explaining what the offers, what the bids were. Laura Lee, do you want to explain this a little further?
Sure. This is the multimodal grant. You have a grant for $80,000 from the state, the multimodal grant program. This went out to bid based upon the design that you approved in a workshop and then later authorized bidding for this. This has to do with the bump outs and the safety concerns which you are addressing with these roadway designs.
Ashford and Storm.
Did this
and
come,
Ashford
did this
Grand.
come back higher than we expected it to
Yes,
come back?
apparently it did.
Yeah.
I think everyone was surprised at the two, there were two bidders. I think your village clerk indicated that these two individuals hadn't come in to pick up a bid package, and there was someone who did take a bid package that didn't respond. So you received just two responses to your bid.
Yeah, I think Nelson Pope thought it was going to cost a total of $186,000, and it came in much higher than that.
Do we have any recourse to identify additional funding sources at this point? Or, so the grant was given based on the estimate, is that correct, Lori?
That's a good question that Jessica raises. I mean, do we have to take action on it? Can we get grants, other grants on it? Do
I think we need to take action on it.
Well,
just
that's just a question.
to clarify my position before you mischaracterize my
I melded your question and my question.
You can reject all bids and rebid based upon some additional information. You can do that. I know that this multimodal grant has a deadline, so I don't know. I don't know much about the grant program, so I don't know if is it use it or lose it? I'm not sure. But it is significantly higher than the estimate that you had produced in support of the bid application.
Right, so how does the board feel, though? We still want to go forward with it and kick in more of the village's money, or what are your thoughts?
This is something that has been a top priority for over a decade for the traffic committee and pedestrian safety, both to shorten the crossing distances, both for school children to make the crossing guard's job a lot easier and less dangerous, and also for seniors and parents of preschoolers who cross the road there to get to the church. I think that this is one of the most important safety projects that we've had before us. It first received approval from the board almost 3 years ago as a concept plan, and it has been winding its way. It spent a lot of time when we changed the scope. It spent a lot of time languishing at the state level. I don't lightly take the idea of spending $83,000 more than we thought we were going to spend. But there are few single things that we have done in the village to increase pedestrian safety for our kids, for our seniors, for our preschoolers, than this project.
Okay. Jessica, how do you feel?
I agree that it's an incredibly important project. I would like to, my preference would be to approve it, but I would also like to see if we can check back with Valerie and with Fiona to see whether there are any additional funding sources we could look at for shovel-ready projects, which, this is now a shovel-ready project. We have, bids. So if we do approve it, if we can go out and try to identify some additional.
Yeah, you can't seek a funding source after you've awarded the bid, because it is shovel-ready, and you're awarding a contract. So it would really limit your ability to look at other bidding and other grant opportunities. Once you've awarded the contract, then it's really past the time where you would be seeking additional funding.
There's
Let
also
me
the
just say
risk
this.
of losing
Is anybody against this right now?
No,
Okay,
we
so-
need to, I'm not,
Okay,
anyway. I think we
let's
need to
just-
proceed.
Okay, so let's just move on then.
And why the numbers were so off.
I know.
Is that because it took so long?
It may be part of it.
Yeah.
It also may
Yeah,
be that
I'm
it's
not
a
against it. I just
small.
find that like most of the things that we've been going through, the numbers usually add up. So
Right.
this
Yeah.
is
Well,
a glaring difference.
Two things happened.
Okay.
One, from inception to bidding
Changed
was
the
a
scope.
long period of time.
Okay.
But the other thing is that there wasn't a lot of interest
Okay,
in this project. I think because of its scale.
got it. So we
you
have to
know,
just take what.
Yeah, if you get 5 bidders, you're
Right.
likely to get a better.
Okay.
But we just didn't, we had to go out and really ask
Okay.
people to put in submissions.
Okay, so is there a resolution authorizing award of contract after competitive bidding for the Public Works project for pedestrian improvements at the intersection of Ashford Avenue and Grandview Avenue and Storm Street? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 4 is to consider a resolution to, all right, so is there a motion to close the offices of Village Hall, Department of Public Works, and Village Court on November 17, 2023 for annual records management? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to consider a resolution to vacate the position held by a provisional employee? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Is there a resolution to authorize the village administrator to sign and execute an annual traffic safety grant for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024? We have an explanation of this, I believe, from the chief. This is an ongoing thing. So is there a motion? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to consider a resolution to correct a typographical error relating to master fee schedule, section 127-7, time limits and time limit fees? So Laura Lee, there was just an error in the typographical error?
Yes, this was, these were the two initial low-hanging fruit matters that we had discussed about correcting issues with the code, the zoning code. This one used the wrong terminology. It was a typographical error that ended up in the master fee schedule.
Okay, so is there a motion? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Galen, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to set a public hearing on a proposed zoning text amendment to provide for flexibility in the assessment of recreation fees in connection with accessory dwelling units? Why do we have to do a public hearing on this, Laura Lee?
This is a local law. It's not a matter of just changing a fee in the master fee schedule. The fees are assessed at the point of the building permit by the building inspector. But ADUs are actually reviewed for special permit by the planning board, and we thought it was appropriate that the planning board look at the facts of the ADU and make the recommendation for a waiver of all or a portion of those rec fees to be assessed by the building inspector. So this is in furtherance, again, of that list of zoning text amendments that we were looking to do. This was my suggestion on how to accomplish it, and it seems the most appropriate and equitable way to do it. For example, if a senior citizen is moving into an ADU on her property, and her family is moving into the main, or his or her family is moving into the main house, you don't want to assess the senior citizen who's moving into that ADU a full rec fee, because when you look at it equitably, the amount of usage of the rec department facilities would not be increased exponentially to offset a full dwelling unit cost.
Okay, so is there a motion to schedule a public hearing for November 14th, 2023 at Village Hall Boardroom at 7:30 to address the issue of ADUs? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 9 is to consider a resolution, all right, is there a motion to authorize the street closure of Cedar and Main Streets for the annual trick-or-treating event to be held on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023, between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m.?
I thought we were getting more information.
No, this is the usual Halloween.
No, this is a regular one, okay.
Okay, so is there a motion for that? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 10, we're not closing the street, so we're not going to vote on that. Right? Right.
Do you want more information or no?
No, we're not
Or
closing the
no.
Street on the 27th, is that?
Yeah,
what
so
you're
the
saying?
decision is to just do the park and the scary park. And we're gonna do an event that involves the downtown businesses and encourages people to walk throughout the downtown. We're gonna collaborate with the chamber on that hopefully, but we are not proposing any street closures.
Okay, because this says a resolution authorizing the
Yeah,
street
so
closure.
That's, we're not
No
gonna,
action.
we're not gonna do it.
Subsequent conversations.
Taking no action on item 10.
Okay.
So the next action item would be, is there a resolution Is there a motion approving a request from Gretchen Skaggs for a garage sale permit for a community-wide garage sale on October 28th between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Is there a resolution to consider, is there a resolution approving the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer? Jeff, there's nothing unusual?
Nothing unusual.
Okay, is there a motion? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. And I have another motion here. Is there, and Laura Lee, listen carefully, make sure I got this right.
You're gonna just ask to add an agenda item? Take a motion,
I need a motion to,
take a motion to add an agenda item number 13?
so is there a motion to add an additional agenda item, action item number 13 to the meeting? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That action item is now added. And I just want to make sure I have this wording right, so correct me. Is there a motion to suspend without pay employee number H7Z002311 effective upon the service of disciplinary charges on the employee and pending the resolution of disciplinary charges against the employee? Is that correct, Laura Lee?
That is correct.
Okay, is there a motion? Someone's got to make the motion, someone's got to, Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor?
Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, so.
Okay. So all in favor? That's 5 in favor, 1 recusal, and 1 absence. Okay. Let's do liaison reports. Trustee Galen?
We had a fantastic Ferry Festa despite the rain. I think we tried to keep spirits high. And I think we learned a tremendous amount this year that we can take into our planning for next year. It's been really a pleasure to be on the committee and be part of, or be the liaison to that committee and be part of understanding how Ferry Festa comes to be every year. And we can work to make it even better next year. I really appreciate everyone who came out and braved the weather and battled tents to the ground. So it was great to see, the chamber and businesses and the downtown committee and the rec department all working together with other volunteers to make that happen. So really appreciate all the support from the police department, DPW, the fire department, partnering with Hudson Compost and Zero Waste Task Force. We really piloted a lot of cool new initiatives this year. So more to come for Ferry Festa, I'm sure. And I don't think I have any other updates on let me update on the downtown grant from the county. We've been continuing to meet with the consultants, the professional consultants who are doing the analysis of our downtown to share some recommendations with us. They have walked through the downtown multiple times. They've already begun to interview business owners and community leaders, and I know they're interviewing staff from the village, and they'll be interviewing trustees and other volunteers. So really just exciting to be in the mix with folks who have been involved in so many business district and downtown revitalizations. And we are still, I believe, we still have the application open for the economic development advocate in the downtown through the local development corporation. So I want to continue to plug that folks can send in their applications. The information is on the village website at dobbsferry.com.
Thank you. Trustee Rosenberg?
There have been no meetings of the Affordable Housing Task Force or the Traffic Committee, but you've seen the fruits of a lot of labor for both happen at this meeting tonight. The step that we just took to award the grant at Storm Grandview and Ashford Avenue is going to be an amazing step forward and a safe step forward for Dobbs Ferry's pedestrians. And I won't rehash the whole affordable housing discussion, but thank you all for having it, and thanks to Valerie, and especially thank you to the Affordable Housing Task Force for the literal years of work and study and learning that they have done that lead us to ask for ideas for improving affordable housing availability in the village. Thank you.
Trustee Rosen Asher?
I want to thank the Human Rights and Diversity Committee for getting a statement together so quickly. And I also want to thank the library for hosting two wonderful Hispanic Heritage Month events, which were great that they also did in conjunction with the Human Rights and Diversity Committee. And it is Senior Week this week, which probably won't be as crazy as your senior week was in college, but down at the Embassy Center, there's activities and things going on every single day. So I encourage everybody to go down there and check out all the cool events that are happening. I'll be down there Friday to check out the art class that's going on. And that's it for me.
The CAB is hosting 6 2-hour Sunday volunteer events, plus one on a Saturday. These are October 15th, October 22nd, October 29th, November 5th, November 19th, and Saturday, November 11th. So you can do invasive species clearing or pollinator garden and trail maintenance. The invasive species in the Juring and the trail maintenance in Chauncey Park.
Thank you. Trustee Taylor?
The only thing I want to make note of, the STF you saw at the Ferry Festa, they were out there with volunteers helping sort and helping the participants in the Festa sort garbage from compostables from recycling. So those efforts continue.
Okay, I also want to thank the people who worked so hard on the Ferry Festa, and especially Patty and his committee, and people here who check people in during the rain. So it's a labor of love, and weather hasn't cooperated lately, but we're going to keep plugging away at it. And I want to also announce that this Sunday, October 15th, is the Road to Freedom March in Dobbs Ferry. So I encourage everyone to come to the event, and people will be dressed in their best revolutionary garb, and they're going to do a little history lesson and a little march.
You
So
too, Mayor? Will you be dressed in?
I will be there, but not in my.
You
not
going to be in revolutionary
not in
garb,
my
Mayor?
revolutionary
Never
garb.
dresses up.
Oh, he never dresses up.
You don't want to wear your big britches on Sunday,
Need a three-corner cat.
or your little britches?
So I will not be there. I mean, I will be there, but not dressed like that. So thank you.
I have a fight I can load.
Okay.
I keep trying.
So if there's nothing further, is there a motion to close tonight's meeting? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. Meeting is hereby closed.
My daughter's